The Toronto Maple Leafs are making moves, and ahead of tonight's big matchup against the Edmonton Oilers, the Leafs have made a couple very interesting moves. We're going to break those moves down as well as discuss Craig Berube. He's made some line changes and some more moves ahead of tonight's game. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But we also have Jani Hakanpää speaking out on how he's feeling following his first game back in his first game playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the regular season. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, but 80% of you who are watching aren't subscribed, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content, and we will be live tonight. Darius will be following the game, so make sure you stay tuned for the stream after the game tonight. And shout out to Darius. Again, he'll be back next video and for tonight. But lots to go over today. We're going to be talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs. They have a lot of interesting things going on right now. Obviously, they have a huge game tonight against the Edmonton Oilers. They're coming off of a couple wins in a row, the huge comeback win against the Washington Capitals. And the big storyline would have been, of course, Austin Matthews versus Connor McDavid. But at this point now, because of the fact that Connor McDavid, or Austin Matthews, is not going to be suiting up tonight, we have some other things to discuss, and there's going to be in the form of some moves. Let's just dive right into it. So before we get into all the roster moves and the line changes ahead of tonight's matchup, we're going to be talking about the Leafs. They assigned Philip Myers. Now, if you're unfamiliar, obviously everybody knows Philip Myers, but he has been a guy that the Leafs have been coveting a ton this season. They could have moved on from him. They could have, waived him. They chose to waive Matt Benning in multiple occasions, but they assigned Philip Myers to a conditioning loan with the Marlies, who host, are playing tonight at Scotiabank Arena this afternoon. So a couple things to go over here. Obviously, Philip Myers, defenseman, a young defenseman, somebody that the Toronto Maple Leafs covet very highly. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, we've been discussing it over the past couple of weeks. Reports have started to come out basically saying that they wanted to keep Philip Myers at all costs, in the sense of when their roster crunch was coming down to make room for Jani Hakanpää, to make room for, of course, Connor Dewar. People were saying, why don't they just waive Philip Myers instead of Matt Benning, who's, of course, played a lot in the NHL. But it's because they wanted to keep Philip Myers, and they clearly either believe in his potential or think that some other team would pick him up if they put him on waivers. So now what they're going to do is assign Philip Myers to a conditioning loan with the Marlies, who host Belleville tonight or this afternoon. So basically what this means is they want to give him some action. He hasn't been playing very much at all with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's been getting healthy scratched every single game. And now with Jani Hakanpää back, as well as Benoit, who is kind of at this point the seventh defenseman, at least for the past couple games and for last game and tonight's game, they just want to give him some more action. So it's a good sign. Obviously, conditioning loans are nothing too crazy, but it was interesting to see him finally now get some action and be moved out of the Toronto Maple Leafs' immediate roster. So I have high hopes for Philip Myers. Now, whether that's in this season or, the following years, they clearly believe in him, and there's a reason they've kept him around for as long as they have. And as a result, they're going to, give him some time in the AHL. I'm curious to see how he performs this afternoon, in that AHL game, because again, he has some promise, and clearly the Leafs see something in the practices. They're obviously prone to more, they can see more than we can on a day-to-day basis. So very excited for that. But another move, or not necessarily a move, but an update, is that before the optional morning skate, Dakota Mermis is doing some skating. He's been on the long-term injury reserves, undergoing jaw surgery in the preseason. And Dakota Mermis is another interesting guy. Again, these aren't, groundbreaking moves or anything like that, but they're definitely interesting, especially, of course, the Philip Myers one. But regarding Dakota Mermis, he's an interesting one. He's another kind of just depth guy for the team. He's another depth defenseman for the Leafs. And obviously, he's yet to play this season. He played last season with the Minnesota Wild in 47 games. And he put up, some decent numbers, 8 assists. But again, he's a defensive defenseman. And it's another depth defenseman the Leafs have. They now have, of course, Philip Myers. They have Dakota Mermis. And as these guys start to approach a return, the Leafs decor, they're constantly battling among themselves. That's the biggest thing that, Brad Shilling has done since he stepped into the front office. He's made, again, they even signed, when they signed, of course, Max Pacioretty to the PTO, he made other guys around him work, made guys like Steven Lorentz battle when, Steven Lorentz was also on a PTO before it got converted. Just continuing to make other players, and even throughout the season, make the players on your team elevate their game is something that you can't really teach. And having some more defensemen, now he'll probably go to the AHL, but it's interesting, and it's pretty, it's a nice change of culture as opposed to the Kyle Dubas era. But let's dive into some of the lines now. So Nick Robertson is not staying out at Leafs optional skate, so Nick Robertson is back in. Alex Steeves is seeming to be out, with Anthony Stolarz getting in the net. However, it could, again, Stolarz is going to play tonight, and then Berube confirms at the bottom. You can kind of see the timeline here. Berube confirms that Robertson is in for Alex Steeves. Now, of course, Alex Steeves got his well-deserved promotion. He's been the best Marlies player this season, aside from Alex Nylander. And, of course, Alex Nylander doesn't have a direct route to the NHL because he's not on a two-way deal. He's on a strictly AHL deal. But looking ahead of tonight's game, they're figuring that Nick Robertson will factor back in. Craig Berube confirmed it. But Alex Steeves, again, he played last game. He played fine. He is out of the lineup tonight. And again, great for him to get a call-up. He'll continue to hopefully get a couple opportunities. But again, as you know, now they have Connor Dewar up. As they have more guys getting healthy, it'll start to get interesting. So you can see this here. These were the lines ahead of, these were the practice lines yesterday. So McMahon, Tavares, Marner, Nyes, Nylander, Robertson, Steeves, Kampf, Holmberg, Dewar, Lawrence, and Reeves. So the only thing that's going to change here is that Alex Steeves is going to be out and Max Domi is going to be in. Max Domi is confirmed in tonight. Of course, Robertson is coming in for Alex Steeves, but Max Domi is going to play. Again, he didn't practice yesterday. He didn't skate. Whether he's been dealing with an injury, they say call it maintenance, but he's probably dealing with, something that is requiring him to miss several practices due to maintenance. But at the end of the day, he is going to be in ahead of tonight's game. And, these lines are interesting. Again, they don't have the firepower of Austin Matthews in the lineup, who's been struggling, albeit a little bit this season. But we saw last game, like Bobby McMahon, 8 shots on goal. He had a goal as well. He's been playing really well, and I'm liking this top line of McMahon, Tavares, Marner. Is it optimal? Probably not, but the way that Marner has been playing alongside John Tavares is very interesting, and we're seeing now in Austin Matthews' absence, he's been out for a handful of games now, several games. We can kind of start to see what changes are actually occurring here. Like, they're starting to play better, not better without Austin Matthews. I'm not going to feed into that narrative, but Mitch Marner is being more aggressive. Everybody understands now that Austin Matthews, and when he's out, they have to step up. The power play's been better. They're being more aggressive on the shots. They don't have to rely on, hey, I'm going to give it to the guy who scored 69 goals last year. Take it. You shoot the puck. You're a better, goal scorer, a better shot. It's requiring and it's, demanding guys like Mitch Marner to shoot the puck more. Even, Matthew Nyes be a little bit more aggressive. We're seeing the third and fourth line start to, be a bit more aggressive as well. Obviously, Connor Dewar's back in the lineup now, and it's going to be a big change, obviously, once Matthews comes back. But seeing Marner paired alongside a center other than Matthews and seeing how he's performing, especially in the Capitals game, is very interesting. And it might lend some credit to the fact that maybe in the future, depending on how things go when Austin Matthews comes back, they might consider a line change between, maybe moving Mitch Marner away from Austin Matthews. But again, Domi's going to come in. Whether he factors in the third line, or assuming he's going to slide into that, in the Alex Steeves spot, so on the wing in the third line, or maybe they put him at center on the third line, most likely left wing. I would be very surprised if they change these top two lines. I think it's going to stay the same way. The second line looked really good. You could find a world where Robertson's on the third line. You put Domi on the wing in replace of Robertson there. But ultimately, what it's going to come down to, the right wing instead of Robertson, is how they play tonight and how things look with, of course, a couple of their guys back in the lineup. Because it's going to be a big game, and I'm very excited for it. A huge game against the Edmonton Oilers, and again, a lot of moves going down here, especially in lieu of Austin Matthews' absence. But before we wrap up, a couple things here. Chris Tanev spoke on the comeback win. He basically just said we felt like we really took over in the second half of the game, and they need to continue that pressure. Jake McCabe spoke on facing players like Connor McDavid. It's a great test for us defensemen, especially something I relish and look forward to. Shutting down the opposing team's best players is always the goal. And then Yanni Hakanpää spoke out on his return to action. It was unreal. Such a great feeling. It's a long time coming. There's a lot of hard work to be there, so it was special. And hopefully Yanni Hakanpää, he will be factoring in tonight, we'll get to see some more out of him. I think he looked okay in his first game back, his first return, but going up against a firepower offense of Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, all these guys, is going to be an interesting one. And I'm excited to see a Darnell Nurse versus a Yanni Hakanpää. Massive matchup. Stay tuned for all that. And again, stream is tonight, so make sure you stay tuned. See you guys later.